So the other big game that we're going to talk about today is one that we've had circled for a while. And it's interesting on about 1,000 different fronts, not the least of which is interesting conversation for Big Ten fans, really interesting conversation for SEC fans. I think in the broader national conversation, it's one of those early bellwether games. One of those non-con games for sure that people have circled just as an interesting tell early on to see where some of these programs are at. This is 7:30 ABC. It is Michigan on the road at Oklahoma. This is a point spread that has jumped around a fair amount since I jotted it down on my document. I had 3 at one point. I think it opened at 1.5. Right now I'm looking at it. It says Oklahoma -6. So let's go with that.
Yes.
I was genuinely surprised when we put out the call on Saturday night for a little role-playing segment where we ask fan bases, tell us who you root for and tell us what your emotions are having watched your team play. Most of the Oklahoma people that wrote in were concerned about what they saw, which I found surprising because they won by 32 points. But I went online. I did verify it to some extent. I would say it was about an 80-20 split. 80% good vibes, good emotions. 20% concern for one reason or another. I don't know if it was an early turnover from Oklahoma. I don't know if it was the third quarter interception from John Mateer, but like a good tune-up. You will take a tune-up.
I think it was lingering offensive line questions that weren't immediately answered.
You will take this tune-up, though. They only allowed 151 yards to Illinois State. That's good.
Sure.
The defense should absolutely be a strength of this team. John Mateer, 392, had 4 total touchdowns, set a record. A lot, I think, to build on. But yeah, the line is going to be interesting, and it's something we should discuss.
Illinois State ran
matchup.
Probably better than Oklahoma fans thought they would. Yeah.
Again, the line is 6, Dan. It is at night. It is in Norman, and obviously that's a pretty advantageous spot for a coach that has to feel like there is nothing to lose at this point. That is
they lost to Norman last year, so
I know, but like there is no benefit at this point in Brent Venables' tenure to go out there and to leave anything in the clip. Like he just has to empty it all. He has to win this game. Much like we talked about with Miami and Notre Dame, this one is very meaningful for Brent Venables. Where are you at coming into this one? How do you feel about Oklahoma's chances to win at home?
Obviously meaningful for Sharon Moore, who's probably going to be shown in the first 3 minutes in an Oklahoma uniform. 2 minutes? 90 seconds? I don't know.
Noted Oklahoma alum, yeah.
Yeah, and I think GameDay's there too, right?
Yep.
GameDay is going to be in Norman. What do I think of this one? My general rule of law with picking games is if you've got what appears to be a strong defense and you're playing at home in a difficult environment, and the added benefit if you're an Oklahoma fan of playing against a quarterback who has never played in a game like this, who has one game of experience, I thought looked pretty good against New Mexico, all things considered. Yep. And the offense definitely had more juice against New Mexico for Michigan. But taking on Oklahoma in this spot, and Michigan has advantages. I think Michigan up front on defense against Oklahoma's front, it's going to be a big question for the Sooners. And we'll see what happens with the targeting appeal to what's Jayshawn Barham, the Michigan linebacker. We'll see what happens there.
A lot of conversation about that one out on the interwebs.
Yes. So, I like Oklahoma here. I do like Oklahoma here just because it fits snugly into my picking arms of the situational play. And I think Michigan is going to come out not apprehensive, but they're going to come out, I think, prepared. I think in a way that's more prepared than usual. But to beat a defense as good as what we think Oklahoma's is going to be, you have to have an offense that can win in a number of ways. And we just haven't seen it from Michigan. We just haven't seen, a game-changing tight end, a game-changing receiver. I like what we saw out of Justice Haynes in week 1. Obviously, a big play running back. Yes,
yeah, 3 touchdowns. The running game really good.
The running game should be good all season long. But what are they putting on Bryce Underwood's plate? TBD. How much are they going to trust him to look like a third-year quarterback rather than like what Notre Dame did with C.J. Carr in week 1 against their first real opponent? This is Michigan's first real opponent, all due respect to the Lobos. So I'm going with the home team here because it's so incomplete from Michigan's offense in this moment. To pick Michigan in this spot You either, one, have to believe Oklahoma is extremely overrated based on last year, which is not an unreasonable take, that we need to see a much better offensive line performance against a real team, or you have to be so almost inexplicably high on the ceiling of this Michigan offense immediately with a new coordinator and a new quarterback. And I don't fit into either one of those boxes. So I'm going to give those points. And I think Oklahoma wins this game by 8 to 12 points.
Okay, wow. Bryce Underwood looked good, though. He did look good.
He looked good, but I think it was a combination of being scripted and not having to go through a ton of progressions.
Yeah, I mean, it was good, really good on the short stuff. It was still pretty good with the intermediate stuff. Once he started throwing beyond 20 yards, I think he was 0 for 2. I checked the passing grades. Fine. They weren't great, but even still, a really good showing for him.
Yeah.
I like the fact that Justice Haynes comes in. That, to me, is more of the story than Bryce Underwood. Of course, the transfer from Alabama, as I mentioned, 3 touchdowns, had like 160 yards or so. They need to have that in the backfield. It can't all just be on the arm of Bryce Underwood. The matchup, though, is what you mentioned earlier, and it's a really good Michigan front seven against an Oklahoma line that we're still trying to suss out. It was bad a year ago. It really was. And so this is one of those matchups where you like to talk about quarterback and defense. I still think like the best quarterback and best defense is probably on the Oklahoma side. And so I tend to agree that the Sooners are going to win this game, but I don't think we can take for granted that Michigan's front isn't going to have a huge say in this ball game. I think the reason why I favor Oklahoma is, given a setup like that, it also plays into the hands of a guy like a John Mateer, who is an improviser, who, if he doesn't get a lot of time, they can still figure out a way to move the pocket. They can get him out of the pocket.
Well, it's a quick hit offense by design.
They can get him out of the pocket. They can find ways to utilize his legs. He's a very talented runner, maybe the best running quarterback in college football.
Whoa.
You can use that to great effect.
Lenoris Sellers exists in this universe, right?
I said maybe.
Okay.
He's not as big as Lenoris the creator, mind you.
Okay.
But he's every bit as electric and a ton of fun.
But
so I am curious to see, in the absence of any real pass protection, if it comes to that, if John Mateer, the improviser, comes out and if he's able to help lift this offense in a way that, Oklahoma hasn't seen maybe since like a Caleb Williams or a Baker Mayfield. I'm not saying he's those guys, but he is that style player to some extent.
I agree. He was really, really good last year, and they're basically one game against a good defense in Boise State. He had a good game. He threw it a bunch, but he got the ball to his receivers. The receivers made big plays. It's different playing in Norman against Michigan. It's a different level for John Mateer as well. If we're going to say that about Bryce Underwood, Mateer's more experienced, but this kind of stage is just different than where he was playing against Mountain West teams by and large last year.
I've got Oklahoma 28-20. I think we tend to agree on the tenor of this game, and I do think the ultimate difference is going to be what I just mentioned, John Mateer's ability to make plays.
Yeah.
Look, we can talk until we're blue in the face about how he's unproven against an SEC schedule, certainly playing against teams like Michigan. He largely played against a Mountain West schedule last year when he was cutting up all things up there at Washington State. But I do think this is one of those games that probably suits his skill set pretty well. He's just going to have to be on the move. I still don't trust that Oklahoma line, and I think he is built for these types of games. So 28-20, I think a lot to build on if you're Michigan. I don't think they're going to seem terribly overmatched in this game, if only because of their front seven and how good it is. And I think we'll see some pop out of Bryce Underwood, and for sure some pop out of a guy like a Justice Haynes. I don't expect this to be a bad matchup at all. I think it'll be fun, but I ultimately favor the playmaking of Mateer. That's why I'm going 28-20.
24-14, 20-10. I just don't think Oklahoma's going to score a ton on this Michigan defense, and I don't think Michigan is going to score a ton on this Oklahoma team. So, I'm going to go low scoring here, but 10 points.
We do have this thing that I have talked about for years in this show that I often reference as the de facto national championship.
Right.
And I think this is an early season de facto national championship for Oklahoma. Like they got to have this one, Dan. They got it. Brent Venables has to have this one.
I don't think that's true at all. I don't think that's what de facto national championship means.
I am being a little bit liberal with my
They play Texas. They play Arch Manning.
I'm saying in the early part of this season.
It's their de facto first 2 weeks of the season national championship.
Thank you. Let's go with that.
Okay.
It's a very meaningful game. I think it means more for Oklahoma than it does Michigan. I'm going to take them 28-20.
Okay.